We're quite new, so you may not have heard of us. Our name is Madre Gold and Silver. We started trading about 8 weeks ago, and our symbol is SM on the Toronto Stock Exchange on the venture side. Forward-looking statements, we will be saying a lot of them, so please have a read through when you get an opportunity. Right. Sierra Madre Gold and Silver is an exploration and future development company that is working towards consolidating the area in and around Nayarit in Western Mexico. Greg Liller and myself started this company about 4 years ago, along with a few other partners. I had reached out to Greg. I think I got him on his third or fourth retirement about starting a new company. When we founded the company, there really wasn't much of an investable silver opportunity at an earlier stage that could grow to kind of like a junior mid-tier. If you like silver, of course, there's Pan American, Fortuna, Great Panther, there's a few of them. But if you wanted like an earlier stage, something that could be high risk, high reward, and grow to junior mid-tier, your options were pretty limited at the time. The area of Nayarit has seen a fair amount of production. A lot of it is private mines, privately held. There's infrastructure in place. There's processing facilities for both precious metals, silver and gold. There's mills and things like that, but no one has kind of come in and consolidated the area, and that's our plan. Our goal is to have 50 to 100 million ounces of silver under inventory in the next 3 to 5 years, as well as production from kind of 2 to 3 points, utilizing a centralized mining facility, kind of like a hub and spoke scenario. What that allows us to do is start with a lower capex and then make it modular. So as new mines come online or increase production from certain facilities, we'll be able to do that modular. We are in acquisition mode, and we hope to bring in further projects in the very near term. Why Mexico? Why Nayarit? I guess it would be Greg Liller. He's our CEO as well as executive chairman. Greg has been active in Mexico since 1993. He is a exploration geologist by training. However, he's been part of production for numerous mines. He said 7 of his projects actually become mines, which is incredible, including some significant takeovers, M&A activities, upwards of $750 million US. One thing that was common in all of those transactions in terms of M&A is that the company was purchased after production. We see a lot of companies that raise a bit of money, drill out some ounces and hope to be taken over for $1 gazillion. That does happen, but it's relatively rare. We want production. We're not afraid of it, and that's what we're working towards. Our goal here is to increase shareholder value through exploration, development, and accretive project acquisition. Greg, a few other companies he's worked with, Genco Resources, Gammon Lake, which became Gammon Gold, Mex Gold, to name a few. I come from the capital market side. I started my career at Canaccord Genuity. More recently, I've been on the corporate side of things. A couple of companies I've been founder and part of. One is Millennial Lithium, which has a lithium brine project in Argentina. We've gone from early stage there all the way to bankable feasibility stage. Another one is Prime Mining, which we started, I think, at about 15 million market cap and pushing towards 400 million now. That's also in Mexico. Another gentleman we've been able to bring on, who's been a really big win for us, is Greg Smith. Greg is a geologist. He's a director and also our VP of exploration. Greg most recently was CEO of Calibre Mining. He handled the acquisition of El Limón and La Libertad in Nicaragua. Greg has spent a lot of time in Latin America. He's Spanish speaking. He drilled out over 12 million ounces of gold in Venezuela. So a really big boon for our team. 2 other gentlemen I will quickly touch on. They're both Mexican nationals. One is Jorge Ramiro, who spoke earlier. He's CEO and founder of Reina Silver, who have some really exciting exploration assets in Mexico as well. And the other gentleman is Alejandro Carabello. Alejandro comes from a really well-known Mexican mining family. He's been in the industry for 30 plus years. He's worked with Greg Liller in the past at both Mex Gold and Gammon Gold. Alejandro is based in Mexico. He handles kind of everything in terms of our permitting, dealing with the locals, the ejidos, drilling contractors, bankers. It's been great. It's really good to have a presence in country. We don't need to have any other consultants. Beyond the people here, we have another 7 Mexican national geologists. We built up the team already for some of these future acquisitions we're going to make. They all have big company experience, and it's a really impressive team Greg's been able to put together here in the short term. Quickly, on our first acquisition, before I pass it over to Greg, we call the project Tepic. Tepic used to be housed in a public company. And as Peter mentioned earlier, that big spike in silver, the company actually had a market cap of over 150 million at that time. More importantly than that, Tepic, there was about $20 million in today's value spent in the ground. And we have all that information, including 31,000 meters of diamond drilling, which we have in our core storage facility in Tepic. They did a bunch of met work, which came out really, really positive. And there was a number of resource reports done on the project. I think there were 6 in total. The last 2 are the kind of the ones we use. They're both historic in nature. One of them was just over 10 million ounces of silver equivalent. And the other one was 18 million ounces, over 18 million ounces silver equivalent. Again, it just depended on which cutoff grade you wanted to use. And with that, I'll pass you over to our executive chairman, Greg Liller, to walk you through Tepic.
Thank you. When I do project acquisitions, I've got a checklist of things I go through, one of which is infrastructure. I've been involved in projects that are remote. They're more expensive to explore. They're more expensive to develop. Tepic's a dream. It's 22 kilometers from the state capital, city of Tepic. We've got paved road all the way up to the last 3 kilometers of access to the project. We have a rail siding 3 kilometers from the project that's on the major Pacific Coast rail line in Mexico. The national power grid is throughout the area, and we have a really good workforce within the area. It's pretty typical of the Sierra Madre silver gold deposits. As Alex said, we had an existing resource. I look at those looking for opportunity, shall we say, in the way they were done. Metallurgy, if you can't get the metal out of the rock, you might as well just walk away from it as fast as you can. And I also look at underlooked at potential. Is the project bigger than other people thought? The land area that we control now is 2,600 hectares. There never was any project-wide base mapping done on the project. It had no topographic maps. So the first thing we did with our seed money was we contracted to have current satellite imagery, and from that we had a topo map built. We divided the project then up into 3 areas: the central area, where most of the work had occurred in the past; the east area, which had never been looked at; and the north area, which had only had a cursory examination. One of the other things I noticed when I was doing my initial site visits was that there was a whole lot more alteration than could be accounted for by the structures that have been mapped in the past. Previously, they had basically these 5 structures. When we completed our first pass mapping on the central area, that 3.5 kilometers worth of structure had turned into 10. So there's a lot of overlooked potential in this project. The eastern area, as I said, never had been looked at before. On our first pass into the area, we found that Tauna structure, which we've now mapped out to over a kilometer in strike length, and it's returned recon samples of over 600 grams silver equivalent. We've announced a 2,700 meter trenching program, of which 400 meters is going to be devoted to Taunus. We're going to do 2,000 in the central area on our new projects. And then in the north area, there's a lot of recent basalts there. Some of these basalt flows are only a couple hundred years old, but where they've been dissected by erosion, we found structures, mineralized structures in line with our central area structures. These have returned up to over 600 grams silver. We've also found on these knobs that are sticking up, some of those are our host andesite. I was just up here last week looking at this area, which has not yet been mapped, and it was quite obvious there was a lot of silica, quartz breccia, altered andesite in the float. Over in this area, we again had our host andesite up. So we've now got 2 geologists working on this area, concentrating on these knobs, and where we've had some pretty good erosion dissecting down through the salt. The point here is there's just a very large hydrothermal system here, and that was not recognized in the past. So I see a lot of good potential in that. The other thing I look at is the way the mineral resources were done in the past. The geologic model that the previous company had was very complicated. They had a lot of faulting and offsets, and I just don't see it. Our mapping, where this used to be cut off and faulted over here, it was treated as one structure. No, it continues on to the south. We see that in the alteration. All the drilling here was all directed this direction. They never turned around and drilled off this area, so it's wide open on the resources, that the historic resource. The other thing too is back to this topography. They never had good elevational control, and how do you do decent modeling without that? So there's just multiple ways in which this project has got overlooked potential and just wasn't treated properly in the past. The past drilling was all core. All the resource reports that are available on CDAR talk about poor core recovery. Oftentimes, if you're not getting good core recovery, you may be underestimating the gold and silver grades. So we've got a 20-hole reverse circulation program going right now. Should finish that up in a couple of weeks to test that. Is it accurate, the core information, or was there an underestimation? We'll know at the end of this program. The one thing I do like to point out with the old resources was we do have really nice widths. These are amenable to both open pit and bulk tonnage underground techniques, which would lower the cost of operating a mine here. Metallurgy, preliminary test results on the bottle roll test are pretty typical of the silver gold deposits in the Sierra Madres. I generally run mine out about 96 hours. That's more reflective of an operating scenario. So that might improve this to 80, the low 80s. But what I found really interesting was they had done a combination flotation followed by cyanide leaching. And that preliminary results showed a boost up to 90% recovery on the silver. We're definitely going to be pursuing this option and doing a lot more test work on that. We began trading. We got our listing in mid-April. By mid-May, we were drilling. I don't know many other companies that can really move that fast. Our permit now, we have 67 holes. We're in the process of expanding that permit out to several hundred holes. And based on the outcome of the RC program, we'll either be doing some more infilling in addition to exploration drilling, or we'll flip to more of an exploration drilling scenario. We hope to get a resource completed by the end of the year. That's going to be dependent upon the rainy season. This area of Mexico during the monsoons, which have just commenced, gets well over a meter's worth of rain. I'm not going to fight Mother Nature. It's expensive. So we may not be completing our program until the beginning of next year. This 2022 acquisition numbers are kind of a placeholder. We're constantly looking for new acquisitions as part of our hub and spoke production scenario. And I think, how much do we have for acquisitions this year, Alex?
Yeah, within the prospectus. So I'll kind of walk everybody through the cap table really quickly. We have 66 million shares fully diluted. There are some broker warrants that we'll cross out here shortly. So to answer Greg's question, it was actually 5 million within the prospectus for project acquisition this year and development of those projects. When we went out to raise our initial capital, we were looking for 8 million. The order book was over 32 million. which was quite a bit. So we settled on 15, which allowed us to make a few of these acquisitions moving forward. Share structure, Greg, myself, and other founders, we're actually up and over 40% now. We've been buying actively in the market. We do have 10 large funds that are involved. They're in for quite small amounts at this point. It was a scenario where we were able to bring them in with small investments now, with a full expectation that as Peak progresses and as we're able to acquire some of these other projects, they'll come in for more meaningful amounts. A lot of these guys want to invest, kind of 3 to 10 million, and I think the largest investment was about 800,000. So a quick summarization: great infrastructure, great location for Peak, as well as Nayarit and consolidating in the area. So far, we've gone from 3.5 kilometers to well over 10 kilometers strike length, which we are testing now. Good historic resource, and we have about 15 million in cash ready to push the projects forward and the management team to do so.